live. We're the Young Jerks. My name's Mike Crawford. We are here at Down the Road Beer Company with Disrupt Boston. I do have an announcement. We have some guests today as well. Just want to get right to the announcement. Again, I'm Mike Crawford, host of the Young Jerks here, and I'm very excited to announce that we will be broadcasting live from the New England Cannabis Convention's Boston 2019 event. I'll be there myself and a bunch of others from Disrupt Boston. Disrupt Boston is the official media partner of AnyCan Boston, providing wall-to-wall coverage of the show, and the Young Jerks will be the network's feature broadcast of the weekend. Wow, I didn't even know this yet. I'm finding out this is news. I'm finding out as I'm reading this. We're really happy. We're also nominated for 2 awards at their AnyCan Awards, Best Podcast as well as Best News, Source of News Information. So definitely vote for us on that. But we're excited. Join me March 22nd to 24th at the Heinz Convention Center in Boston. Tickets start at $30 for a single-day pass, or get a 3-day all-access ticket for $95. AnyCan is the largest gathering of the New England cannabis industry and is the perfect business-to-business and business-to-consumer platform for everyone doing business in the Northeast, and those who want to go to anycan.com for the complete list of vendors, education, seminars, featured speakers. Get your tickets to AnyCan Boston 2019 and tune in to AnyCan TV for live broadcasts of the Young Jerks from the convention floor. I hope to see you there. And again, we'll be broadcasting live from there all weekend. So we're very excited. Big announcement. I think that's our first official sponsor with Disrupt Boston. We had a lot of sponsors over at the old show. But thank you, AnyCan, and thank you, community. We will definitely see you there in March. We also have a guest here. I want to get right to the guest now. Very excited to have you here. A lot of my friends are happy that you're here. Even before we announced, I saw them posting about your campaign, your recent announcement that you're running. You're running for Congress. You're a doctor, a medical doctor. Your name is Mohammed Dar for Congress. A lot of people call you, your friends call you Modar.
Yes, sir. Modar.
Tell us about yourself and why you're running and why you've announced your run for U.S. Congress, challenging the current U.S. Rep, Stephen Lynch.
Absolutely. So for me, it comes down to my patients. And I'm a doctor today, but my success was an unlikely story. My parents were both immigrants who came over, and they took on blue-collar jobs, working long hours to try to support their kids, wanting to give them the best life possible. Mom was a janitor in my grade school, sweeping floors, cleaning toilets. My dad was a big rig trucker. He'd take me out in the cabin, let me honk that big horn. And for them, the vision was always that their kids have a better life than they did. So when I got into college, I worked hard. We got this tuition bill, and Dad knew we couldn't afford it, but he still wanted to. So he went without health insurance during that time to bring in enough to support the house and my education at the same time. Months passed by, he's doing okay, and then months passed by and he's starting to feel more run down. And we tell him, Dad, you should go see a doctor. And he agrees, but he's like, you know how much a doctor costs if you don't have insurance? That's half our rent check. I'll get through this, it's a bug. More months go on, and then finally my father's so sick he can't walk across a room without being winded. So he goes in finally, and he's told he has a late cancer and that it's all over his body. The doctors tell him, you should have come in sooner. And so I go to him as a 19-year-old sophomore in college. And I'm full of grief, and I'm also full of guilt. And the first words out of my mouth when I go see him at his hospital bed is, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry that I was taking this time in college. I should have been working like my siblings. I should have been driving truck like you. And for my father, he didn't want any of that, like any parent. He said, he was a religious man. He said, I don't care if I die tomorrow. I don't care if I die in 40 years. But I want to go and see my maker and be able to tell him that I gave my son a better life. And so he would say, dry your tears, son. In life or in death, I am victorious. And that was victory for my dad. But I, like many of you, many people listening today, I was his American-born son who went to school in America. And I went to school hearing about this American dream, that success is yours for the taking if but you work hard enough for it. And I'd worked hard enough for it. I was going to be successful. But in this, the world's richest nation, because of the cost of healthcare and the cost of education, my dad was going to die on the way there. And so I promised my father in those days that I would fight to make sure that other families would not have to suffer the way ours did. And I've tried throughout my life to do that, whether it's through my work or my advocacy. That means visiting patients who have been arrested and gone to jail for addiction and talking with them about resources so that they can come back to a better life. That's been my work working in our veterans hospitals, trying to serve those who have served our country. And that's been my work as well as a medical director at Massachusetts Medicaid, at Mass Health, trying to make the system more equitable, more accessible for these marginalized populations. But what I found as a doctor practicing was that I was seeing my patients downstream to their issues. It's like if there's water coming into a boat, I'm the bucket just trying to throw the water out without plugging the hole. Because when people can't afford to keep warm, can't afford food, can't afford their medications, they crash into an emergency room that patches them up, puts them back on the street. But those issues need front-end problems. And when we look at where our country is today, across the last 2 generations, across 40 years, the average wages for the average worker, stagnant, have not moved past inflation. But the cost of healthcare, the cost of education, the cost of housing are all going up. And now where we are as a country today is that this is America. We do big things. We had a president from Massachusetts who said we were going to get to the moon within the decade. He said, put up or shut up to the country. And though he did not live to see it, the country kept its promise. So when we see these issues going, we see the gap between rich and poor widening. There are 2 decisions we can make. We can keep talking about a politics of incremental change, that we're just going to nudge things along while people keep getting poorer, while success keeps being less accessible, or we once again think of that America that does big things. That's why I'm in this race. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today.
How old were you when your father had this happen?
I was 19.
19. So that was, and how old are you now?
32.
32, okay. So, I mean, you saw it very early on then.
I did. It unfortunately makes you grow up fast.
It does. So you mentioned also that you're a medical doctor and you're at the VA right now?
So I was previously at the VA to run for this congressional seat, and I tried to ask in every way possible, is there any way I could keep practicing at the VA while doing this? But there's this law called the Hatch Act, not named for Orrin Hatch, but a previous Senator Hatch, and it says federal employees cannot run for office. And that means you can't volunteer at the VA, you can't do anything. So it really broke my heart, but I had to end up leaving the VA. So I'm switching my practice along. But how I have practiced the last couple of years is I'm an internist by training. So that means I take care of people with medicines. It's kind of like JD from Scrubs or House from Dr. House. So I've worked in the emergency room, I've worked on hospital floors, I've worked on cancer floors, done urgent care, done primary care, trying to see folks in every walk of life and every difficulty they're in and try to get them back to a better life.
Speaking about this medical issue, because that's a big issue for people right now. It's always my big concern being self-employed now as well. What do we do about this issue? I mean, Medicare for all is something that always comes up. What does that even mean? Number one, I think is different for where are you on this? What do you think the solution is on the federal level for the healthcare?
Sure thing. So you're talking to a health policy nerd here.
That's right.
So we're gonna go deep for a sec. When you have an insurance plan with your employer, what the insurance company is supposed to do is you are paying them to get you the best price possible because you don't have the ability to negotiate with every player in the market, the hospitals, the pharmaceutical company, etc. And the problem is that our insurance costs are sky high. So when we talk about a Medicare for all, like a single payer system where everybody is in that same system, once again, that means that entity becomes your insurance plan and they negotiate at that scale. So if there's some blockbuster drug that comes out of Germany and they want to sell to the American market, they got to negotiate against all of America. And it's kind of like take it or leave it. So we're going to get the best price possible for all of us. When we do that, we're acting like a Costco. We're buying in bulk and we're getting the best price. Now that's what most countries do. That's why country of Germany, Australia, France, Indonesia, they get great prices. And the statistics on this are already known, that those countries spend about half the amount we do. They and they get everyone covered, and they live longer than us. Their life expectancies are years longer than us for it. But that's not what we have in America right now. We have smaller insurance companies. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to negotiate at their own scale. You have your Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, your Mass Health of Massachusetts, your Harvard Pilgrim. And they're trying to negotiate against these big players, again, like a national pharmaceutical company, and they can't get the same price. They're not Costco. They're like a 7-Eleven. So think about when you buy a candy bar. What's the price for one candy bar at the Costco, that one unit that becomes cents, versus what you're getting from the 7-Eleven? That's why we need a system that advocates for all of us, and that's still a market when you look at it. It's just the most power for your market. Now, on the other end, I'll take you one step deeper. Particularly Democrats worry about, and we start getting into infighting, well, if we do a Medicare for all, my business gives me a pretty good health plan. I don't want to lose that. Will I lose what I got? And that could be a scenario if you're in a union. It could be a scenario if you're working for a high-end employer. Could come in a lot of ways. And if they are doing that for you, we do still deserve to give you a route where that becomes on top of what you have. Let's say you work for Goldman Sachs. You got the deluxe everything. So Medicare for all is giving you glasses or contacts, and you're like, I want those daily contacts. I can just take them off, throw them wherever in the middle of the night. Like, that can be on top. Whatever your union has fought for can still be there. But when we talk single-payer Medicare for all, we're kind of talking like Social Security if it was for all ages. Social Security was the system that prior to when it was started, old people would go poor. They'd be destitute. And when they first presented Social Security, people were saying this is communism. And that wasn't the case. But what ended up happening is it took generations out of poverty, and nowhere in the system did it say you can't still go get a 401k on top. If that's what your employer is offering or that's what your dollar wants to do, go get it. But let's stop this system where we have high-end deductibles. Let's do no deductibles.
Yeah.
Let's do no bankruptcies.
Right.
And let's have America
No
negotiate.
bankruptcies. I love that. No medical bankruptcies.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's have the country of the United States negotiate for you at the scale you deserve, and let's get our life expectancy above these other countries.
Because it has started to creep down for the first time, right?
It started to creep down, and it's become a trend because it happened 2 years in a row. And other countries are still years ahead of us. So when you ask, are you getting your bang for your buck, you're dying 4 years.
And we're spending a lot more than them in reality, aren't we? We're spending more than those other countries per person. And a lot of it is the drugs and the suicides. Like for young people, that's like one of the rising things now is suicides are up.
Right. And we are spending twice as much as them, again, because all our players are not negotiating at scale. But it also means our clinics are not distributed well. So there was a series in the Boston Globe talking about how urgent cares are opening up, trying to help people not go to hospitals, but none of them are opening up in poor neighborhoods around Boston or Metro Boston.
Suburbs or Cambridge or Somerville. I see them. You're right. Or Peabody. And they got a lot in Salem and Swampscott too now. I want to ask you some more questions.
Yeah.
We got a lot of questions actually. One that's big and local right now. You're running in Stephen Lynch's district, and a huge story that's come out in the Globe and other places. And last week we had Brianna Wu, who's also running for the same seat, and we talked about this Weymouth gas compressor plant. There's a lot of controversy. A lot of people don't seem to want it. Where do you stand on this? What's your view on this Weymouth gas plant?
I'll give you the short answer and the long answer.
Yes.
Short answer is absolutely against. That community has spoken. Long answer is this compressor plant, it's a natural gas compressor that is being built to send natural gas up north. So it's skipping these communities. It's going to go make someone else money, and it's putting it in their community. Now, the folks who are talking about this in Weymouth, they've put out there that there are multiple population centers around this compressor plant. There are daycares around it. There are multiple neighborhoods around it. And there have been real accidents around these plants. In North Dakota and Pennsylvania, there have been real explosions on these. Furthermore, the Planning Commission, the MAPC that gave the governor the thought that they should approve this plant, their study of what was going on said, yes, this plant's going to release toxins like benzene or formaldehyde. Yes, this neighborhood does have a higher incidence of COPD and other respiratory problems. But we think it won't be a high enough number to affect them worse. If you live in that neighborhood, does that resonate with you?
Doesn't sound good to me.
And furthermore, that same planning group said, for a number of other reasons, we still don't recommend you open it. But then the governor comes back and says, well, I'm locked in. I gotta sign for this. Meanwhile, there's this lady, Andrea Honor, who's a complete boss, who's been going to the governor's office every day at lunch asking for a meeting. And you know, if I'm an elected official and somebody's come to my office 3 or 4 times, like that's enough. Like this person deserves some time.
He's not giving her time.
To my reading, still hasn't given her time.
That's not new to us. We have our friend Stephen Mandilli who slept outside the State House. I think she is too. Is she the one that's been kind of staying at the State House 24/7 now on this issue? I think she is. Because I heard something on the news about it the other day. I wonder because my friend Stephen did this for a while. He even stood outside with a sign outside his house. He got so frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else in the state will meet with Stephen. And Stephen's actually on television tonight, so check that out on CBS Channel 4.
All right.
Tonight on the news with I should look that up, but we're speaking to Modar. I like this. We just call you Modar.
Yeah, man. It's all good.
Dr. Mohammed Dar is your a formal name. You're running for U.S. Congress, Stephen Lynch's seat. I like what I hear so far, so let's hit some more questions if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I like how you answer the questions. You're like, here's my short answer. You answer it immediately, which almost no politicians do on the show. You do it perfect, and then you give us the longer version, and it's not that long. So, safe injection sites. What do you think about that issue right now? It's come up a lot with the mayor of Boston talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
So short answer, opioid epidemic is overtaking us in so many ways. Harms reduction is absolutely on the table. Long answer, and I got to speak to one of my patients on this if you'll let me.
Yes.
When I was doing my medical training, I still remember this. One of the senior docs pointed into this person's room. I'm going to call him John for the sake of it. And he said, this is the hardest thing you will ever see in medical training. John was a gentleman who had an opioid addiction, had gone to rehab and been clean for many months. And he hit a patch in his life where he had more stress, and he used again. Now, when you take a harms reduction approach, you also teach people about what to look out for if they use again. And we have to recognize that addiction, no one who is addicted, 47,000 people died of opioid overdoses last year. And that is more than most wars in our country as far as yearly deaths.
It's a huge amount.
Huge amount. And none of those people intended to overdose. Addiction is a disease that overcomes a perfectly good person, and we know them in our neighborhoods, brothers, sisters, and forces them into an action that they know is not good for them, but overcomes the good person. So John had a craving, and he used. He used in a supermarket restroom, and he overdosed. He fell, he stopped breathing. And the reason he overdosed was he didn't have one bit of knowledge that harms reduction would give to people. If you use again after you've stopped, you have lost tolerance to the doses you were at. Do not go back to the dose you were at when you started, especially with the stuff like fentanyl and carfentanil.
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting. You don't know, and that's the other issue now is these products change.
Exactly.
You know, when he did it maybe 2, 5, 10 years ago, it may have been a lower dosage, and now you got this new stuff that's just through the roof, and people aren't even expecting it. And this happens a lot. Like. Even with experienced addicts, they're used to it. They're handling it for years, and all of a sudden they get that what they call the hot shot.
Right, and it's still only dollars. And so John is brought into our hospital, and he's been down so long that his brain has suffered an injury he's not coming back from. But they brought his body back, so he is hooked up to a respirator. And when you see him in the room, other than the tube in his mouth, he looks like a normal guy sleeping. And we fight for days trying to keep him alive because his wife is begging us to, because she's saying his son is coming in to see him. Please keep him alive for that. So I remember that image looking into that room where finally his little boy came in, 6 years old.
Oh.
And the image is John on the machine, looks like he's sleeping, and his 6-year-old son curled up next to him.
Oh, my God. Oh,
And
I'm
so
like ready to cry thinking about that.
I want to,
It's tough.
yeah. And well, when we talk about harms reduction, what we're talking about is that a guy like John deserves another shot, even if he relapses.
And his 6-year-old kid deserves another shot. That's what I want a lot of these like uncaring jerks out there. I'm gonna cry because I hear these stories all the time, and it's like I don't get it. I don't get why people turn it off on this subject sometimes, and they say it's a choice, and it's not a choice for the 6-year-old. Like
Right.
even if you don't care about John, I do care about John.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to start crying on my shoulder there, Mohammed. Monar.
I cried a lot in that room.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the part of the story that's hot right now is this facility Safe House in Philadelphia. Now Philly had 1,100 opioid overdoses last year, highest in the nation, 3 times the murder rate in Philly. And you can get that overdose level of smack on the streets for $5. Safe House is a facility that's being built with no taxpayer money, with the mayor's approval. And they are trying to build a facility where those who get overcome by their addiction can get guidance, can get support, and get on that
So
route
in Philly,
back.
they're going forward with this.
So they're trying to go forward with it, but the Trump administration is suing them
Oh no.
not to be able to do it.
Because that's what
And-
in Boston, the federal attorney saying the same thing, Andrew Lelling. I
Mhm.
don't know if he's the same guy in Philly. He might, I don't know. But
Mhm.
it's because Mayor Walsh doesn't think, he seems like he's supporting it now, which is kind of courageous in some respects, but he's not really fully backing it. He's saying that, he doesn't think we're ready. It's interesting to see that Philadelphia wants to really go forward with it, and the feds are stopping it. I mean, as if you were elected to U.S. Congress, you could probably do something about that, or at least have a podium, have a bully pulpit.
Yeah, and when it comes to the federal government getting in the way of this, if a city or municipality wants to go forward with this, and their own mayor's on the side of it,
Right,
they should have the right to do that, especially in the city where they've had the most opioid overdoses.
right.
Because this
They're
problem,
the stakeholders. They're
They're
the
the
ones most
stakeholders.
affected.
if they don't implement it right, who is the one who's accountable, the mayor or President Trump?
That's right.
So yes, we got to do it in a way where it leads to good outcomes, which when you look at the international statistics, it does work. That's why other countries have not had the epidemics we do. I get that neighborhoods want to make sure it's done right,
Sure.
but the fact that though folks want to do it without taxpayer dollars going into it in a way a mayor approves of in a big American city, yes, this problem has been overtaking us. It's been killing more people than go to war, and we need new ideas for it. And we need to think of addiction as a disease that overcomes good people, and we can bring them back.
I'm pretty sure Stephen Lynch isn't going to give that kind of answer or even be in support of that. I just don't think. I mean, have you heard anything on
I
this?
can't
Yeah,
can't
you-
speak for the current congressman,
I'm
but
guessing.
we're gonna talk about a race of real differences on here, and that's okay to have, and it's okay to give people a choice in their elections. That's what democracy is.
That's right. I'm going to ask all the drug questions because next one is cannabis. This is a big one for us and for everyone in Massachusetts. Do you think that the federal government should, go forward with legalization to stop things like, there's a lot of issues with banking right now with cannabis. There's issues with the post office with cannabis. Do you think the federal government should legalize?
I think they should. And let's take a step back. Let's say if that question you were asking about alcohol right now wouldn't make a lick of sense. The trend on this is clear. States are legalizing. They are saying compared to other things out there, including alcohol, cannabis is no different, no more dangerous. And so if a state has legalized, why should there be federal government holding a person who used for personal use and for the rest of their life they have a Corey hit on them or they have a charge? Or why should somebody who used cannabis for personal consumption have a hit that says you can never get financial aid in your lifetime, especially if you're trying to go to school or get jobs training? Or why should it be that ICE shows up in a neighborhood and picks someone up off the street for the only thing that they've done in their life was they had possession of cannabis once? The state has spoken. The states are going to continue to speak. federal government needs to get out of the way on this one.
You mentioned
One more for you. The WHO, the World Health Organization, is recommending to reclassify cannabis.
That's right.
So we're going above the national level on this. So if the only holdout is the guy in the middle, get out of the way.
And you mentioned ICE too, so I want to ask about ICE because that
Mhm.
came up a lot in the campaign with Diana Presley and Ocasio-Cortez and some of the recent elections. Where are you on this ICE? Like some people are saying to defund ICE.
Mhm.
Where are you on, what should happen to ICE for some of the past things that happen on, with even, presently on immigration?
hmm So I think ICE has lost its mission. If you think about when ICE was created, it came out of post 9/11 because the 9/11 hijackers, the monsters that they were able to come into the country, move around freely, and do awful acts to everyone that was there. And ICE was supposed to be the detectives that find these bad guys and go after them. But that mission is lost. Now they're like stormtroopers on the beat picking up grandmas off the street. And that is not the mission. The mission is for them to be a higher level institution, keeping us safe from terrorists. So when we're talking about what is supposed to be happening, we were having a conversation back in 2013 of a pathway to legalization for those in this country. Over 50% of those undocumented in this country have been here more than 10 years. They are in the neighborhoods, they are part of the community, they've been working. Over 50% of them have kids who are US born who are going to schools.
That's right.
And you could go one of two ways on this. You could say we're going to be Trump's deportation machine, which spends a lot of money to try to send folks back, thousands of dollars. And if you're talking about 10 million people in this country, thousands of dollars per them, which is going to add up to hundreds of billions. Or you could say we're going to give them a route to earn citizenship. And, maybe there's some fee to pay along the way. My dad sacrificed his life for my education. Folks will pay a fee. And
Now,
you
what
can
about
put
the people that turn around and say, your dad did it legally and these people aren't? What would your response to them be?
Well, that's where I speak to earned pathway. These folks are still contributing to our economies. They're cooking in our kitchens. They came, many of them, for asylum for reasons of safety. And it is legal to come to the U.S. and seek asylum. And the way the Trump administration has put it is they put months-long backlogs to apply for asylum.
People
That's
can't
not,
even apply, yeah.
So then they just fall in to being called illegal.
There's no other choice, basically,
Right.
the
And
way it is now. We need to allow them to actually do it the legal way, is that?
That is it. And in 2013, the Senate was going to pass a bill on this. We talk about how much dysfunction there is in Washington, but 6 years ago we were going to have the Senate pass a bill bipartisan on
That's
this. It is not out of reach. So when we're talking about ICE has lost the mission, and they need to be keeping us safe from terrorists, and we need to have a pathway so that folks can contribute back. And you know what? With all those fees we get from them applying for citizenship, which they certainly will do because for them it is dignity, you can put that back into jobs programs for folks. We don't have to be enemies to each other. This is a country of beautiful differences, and we've gotten past it in the past.
There's a lot of other national issues that are cropping up right now. Elizabeth Warren today announced that she is officially running for U.S. Congress. President.
She's downgrading.
She's a U.S. senator, and she's officially announced that she's running for U.S. president. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to saying Congress because you're the one running for Congress, and
That's
I had Brianna
all right.
Wu last week, and
That's all right.
but she's running for U.S. president. But there's also this new thing that was announced with Ocasio-Cortez and Ed Markey. The Green New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to comment on either one of those things, like the number one, the presidential race, anyone you like or dislike, or any comments on that, and on this Green New Deal announcement?
On the presidential race, I'm just excited. I like so many people there. Of course, Elizabeth Warren is our home girl. I'm looking forward to the debates. They're going to go out there. They're going to put their policies against each other. They've been putting out exciting proposals, but I want to see them up on stage. For the Green New Deal, people like to pick on it and say, oh, this is a grab bag of so many things. But you lose sight of what it is. It is about getting our environment to be ready for our next generation, to give them cleaner air, cleaner water than we have, which has always been the goal, but to also do it in a way that keeps in mind intersectionality. Because when you invest to get this country to 100% renewable, when you invest to decarbonize our future, that's going to be a lot of money, that's going to be a lot of jobs. But you can also invest in the intersectionality that we need to make sure that that investment brings up our poorer neighborhoods.
That's right.
I'm down with that.
Let me ask
You
you
can
another
lose
question
sight.
on that too, because there's an intersectionality with we talked about the cannabis issue,
Yep.
and it's local right now, but on a federal level, this could come up too. Would you be someone that would ask for social equity and to uplift poorer communities instead of just letting the big boys get into the cannabis industry if it was legal? Would you be more supportive of those?
I
as
think
well?
that's what the communities are asking for when you go around. That these same communities where difficult policing came in and the war on drugs hit them so hard, and folks lost their breadwinner in the family over a simple possession charge. Now those communities are being told, well, now that it's legalized, the big business is going to come in, and that's all you have to buy from from the shop. Should that industry not bring in opportunity and money into that community to help revitalize it? On this issue, as well as on Green New Deal,
On both of them,
that the goal is, yes, there's going to be a lot of investment, but let's bring up all those boats, because you could just give all that money to the big businesses.
That's what we're all afraid of on all of it. This is a great conversation. You're hitting everything. It's really good to speak to you so far. We do have some
Pleasure.
more time. I'm looking at my clock and we've gotten a lot in already, and we still have plenty of time. Do we have any comments online too? I'm not really picking them up. All right, cool. We have a phone number you can call in. 502-501-3477 is our phone number. My name is Mike Crawford. I'm speaking to a medical doctor, an MD. His name is Dr. Mohammed Dar, or Modar,
Yes, sir. Modar.
running for U.S. Congress.
I can tell you why it's Modar.
Yeah, tell us
People
why
have
it's
wondered.
Modar.
Because I've gotten hits on this on both sides already. I have my religious friends who are like, you have a proud religious name. How dare you not call it Modar or Mohammed Dar? And I see right-wing comments saying, see, he's trying to hide his name.
Oh,
So here's what happened. I'm a freshman in college, and during the month of Ramadan, we fast. So what do you do as a college kid at the end of the fasting day? You go find the free food. There's somebody's hosting an event. So I show up to the event, guy greets me, new kid, and I'm like, hey, I'm Muhammad. He's like, all right, yo, what's your last name? I'm like, Dar. He's like, sweet, Modar. And I correct him. I'm proud of my name. I'm like, no.
Muhammad.
I'm like, it's Muhammad. And he's like, all right. He looks into the room and he yells, hey, Muhammad. 10 other guys look up. And he's like, hey, me, Muhammad. And he just looks back at me. He's like, dude, it's not going to work. Try out Modar. It's cool. And within 2 weeks, every one of my friends on campus,
Modar.
it just stuck. The university president called me Modar, and it just stuck with me the rest of my life.
I like it. You listen to the people. You're a smart man. I can tell right away. It's funny too. You go with what you get the kind of. There were 10 Mohammeds there. That's funny.
Most common name in the world. Can't win on that
It
one.
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's 502-501-3477. It's not that surprising. It's that it's my bad. 502-501-3477. See, I'm not perfect at all,
No,
people.
no,
You could
no.
pick me apart all day. I also want to mention that we're having a big event coming up April 27th here from Down the Road Beer Company. It's our Young Jerks 5th year anniversary party. We're going to have a big event, award show as well. We're giving away awards. We're going to give away the Michael Malta Activism Award after my friend. But we're going to be very excited to celebrate that. We have Rep. Nika Elugado coming down to present an award. Tito Jackson, our good friend. Shalene Title, who is a Cannabis Control Commissioner. And again, the family of Michael L. Malta is also going to come down and present that Activism Award. We've already started voting on our Facebook group. Definitely check that out. Get tickets, and we hope to see you there. We're going to have a lot more announcements on that, as well as the other event that we announced today. But again, we're sitting here with Modar, so we want to get right back to that. We have a few more questions, definitely. I want to ask you about the Seabrook nuclear plant. As in my little reading and research and where I grew up and even where we are now, where we live today, Seabrook has always been a concern, as well as Pilgrim. But Pilgrim, is basically being shut down.
Mhm.
But Seabrook is looking to get a license renewal with the federal government. And there's a group that's kind of, reported some information, and they have seen some documents, and the rest of us haven't seen the documents, but there's some issues on Seabrook, and it looks like the federal government, the Trump administration, is just going to let them get relicensed and everything's okay, even though I'm concerned, and I think other people should have concern with where Seabrook, New Hampshire nuclear plant is so close to a major urban center. Do you have any comment on that as a federal, congressman? I think you might have some say on this. What do you think? Should Massachusetts have more say on this? Should this get a closer look?
So, short answer, Massachusetts should definitely have say on it. Definitely should get a closer look. So Seabrook, if you're talking about Boston and you're talking about this district I'm in, it's about 40 miles or so from Boston. So that means in the worst possible scenario of what could happen from the nuclear plant, we are in the contamination zone. So this plant got a 40-year license when it started. And that was 40 years because they said that's about how long the parts last on everything. That's
right.
why this renewal's up. And they're saying the parts should be able to be renewed for 20 years. But this is unique amongst nuclear plants. It is subject to something called ASR, alkali silica reaction, which makes the concrete swell and then crack.
Right.
And so when we're talking about this nuclear plant, the folks in the community are saying, some of the gears and stuff you might be able to say are 20 years certified, but we want to talk about these pieces. We are in this community. And just because a few folks say that the plant is up to snuff doesn't mean you haven't asked people in the community. And those groups are saying, we're not trying to shut down the plant. We want to get to a point, though, where we feel reassured that the steps the plant owners are taking will be safe. Because once you sign off 20 years, it's 20 years.
That's right.
So we want to make sure before that sign-off happens that we have good assurances. And for that, especially when we are that many miles close to it, of course we have a voice in there, and of course the community should get a voice.
I think so. We have a phone call. We're going to see if we can get the caller on the line here. Who's calling in?
It's a birthday boy. Congratulations to the congressman for running, and for the doctor. And I'm glad that he actually has a profession and he's not running as a politician. That he actually has helped people out in this profession. So just a shout out to him, and again, represent doctor. And you too, Mike Crawford. Give it up for the young jerks.
Thank you, Rhodes. That's Rhodes Pierre. Do you have a question too? Beyond you just want to shout out?
No, I just wanted to give you guys a shout out, and I'm glad to see a fresh voice representing the people.
Rhodes, we'll try to make you proud every day. Happy birthday, my man.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Man. Thanks.
Are you in his district by chance? You may be. Do you know Rhodes?
I live in Sharon.
So Sharon is funny because the outer parts of Sharon, 75% of it is encompassed by the district,
right.
But Sharon proper itself is outside the district. So it's a maybe depending on which neighborhood you live in.
Did you have Stephen Lynch, Brianna Wu on your election card last time?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, maybe not.
Well, tell your friends.
You need to find out.
I will find out.
And either way, make sure you like Mohammed. You're on Facebook?
Yep, we're on Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter, and Instagram. It's just Dar for Congress as the handle.
I'll definitely like you, man.
Appreciate you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Rhodes.
Thank you.
Again, our phone number is 502-501-3477 if you want to call in. We're speaking of Modar. You're running for U.S. Congress.
Yes, sir.
And Rhodes could also contribute money, too, as well, right?
He can. So if you go to our website, darforcongress.com, we got a donate page. We got a biography page. You can find out more about me. You can sign up to volunteer. You can sign up and send us questions, too. Love to hear from you. We realized, and this was one of the lessons I got as a doctor early on, they told me in med school, doctors talk too much. If you listen to the patients, you'll get what you need to do. And we got a long primary ahead of us, so I'm keeping that in mind, too. I got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we want to do a lot of listening to folks around. So
you know what? You say that, too, but you are really good at that, because when we talked earlier, unlike most politicians, I did most of the talking.
I'm happy to. You'll tell me when you want me to talk.
You know all about my whole life already. Like in 5 minutes, I told you everything. You're very easy to talk to.
I'm honored by that. That's a trust. I hold it sacred.
And I was a financial advisor way back, and now I'm a dog walker, and I run a dog walking business. And it's so true. That skill is so important in both of those fields. Like as a financial advisor, you need to know your customers if you're giving them advice. And I used to be a wrestling coach, and that's another one. You need to know your athletes. I wasn't that good of a coach back then because I didn't get that, but I do now. And with dogs especially, you need to know your dogs, and as well as the owners, which I don't like as much. I like listening to the dogs, not so much the owners, but you got to listen to the owners too, because
That's true. That's true.
in my business. And
I'll preview you something exclusive. We're gonna have a campaign mascot. Got a little dog. Her name's Frida. She'll be showing up on social media. You'll see her soon enough.
oh my God, the dogs and the social media now for campaigns has become. I saw a campaign do this recently. I'm not even going to mention the campaign, but it's funny. You've already picked a dog.
But Frida for us, she is one of our staff person's dogs. She hangs.
She's already around a lot.
She's already around
campaigning
a lot
for you. It's
She's
just a
been-
natural fit.
She's been with me in the office. She cuddles. She's in it for the fight.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she's about 3.5, so she's a millennial.
Maybe next, at where we're at here down the road, Beer Company. One of the things I love about this place is that it is pet friendly. You can bring your dog in.
Yeah,
Maybe
I saw
next
that
time we
on the way
bring
in.
Frida down.
I'd love to.
That'd be awesome. So we're the Young Jerks. We're here on Disrupt Boston from down the road Beer Company. We're really happy that have announced today that we're the official media partner of AnyCan Boston. We're going to provide live content from their event. This big event at the Heinz Convention Center, March 22nd to 24th. We hope to see you there. We're still with Dr. Mohammed Dar. He's running for U.S. Congress. He's a medical doctor. Mo Dar is what everyone calls him.
Yes, sir.
And you've been great today, honestly. You've been a very...
I'm honored to be here.
We started off slow. There weren't a lot of viewers, so to speak, but now they're like, once people started watching you, like, it just slowly built up. I was watching
All
and
right.
people have stuck with us. And I'm wondering, there are some comments now too.
Sure.
Someone said unattachment unavailable. I'm not sure what that one means, but it's funny some of the comments you get.
We'll try to earn that vote.
But my friend Jeffrey wrote wicked smart, funny too. I don't know who he's talking to, but Jeffrey is he's a local business owner. But again, our number 502-501-3477. Are there any real good comments that I should be reading that I'm missing? Producers back there, let me know. Nah, not really. They're saying. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. It's funny how people are.
It's allowed.
Yeah, it is allowed. 502-501-3477 if you want to weigh in. We also are going to come back after the break with a new guest. We're going to have Ross. Some of you may know him. He's an old friend of the show. But Ross, we're going to be talking about what's going on in Worcester, and he's a economic empowerment applicant for the cannabis industry. So we're going to be speaking to him in the second half of the show. So stick around. Michael Distral just made a comment. I'm wondering what he's got to say. He always has something good to say. So he says the show is doing good, Mike Crawford. Thank you, Michael.
All right.
See, guys like Michael, like once I see a notification his comment came out, I'm like ready to read it because I know it's going to be good for us. He felt the energy needed a little nice comment.
We were chatting about neighborhoods and how they're changing, what the
Yes.
federal government can do. Do we want to
actually,
jump
yeah,
into that one?
that was the last one I want to ask is about gentrification.
Yeah.
And because this is an issue, like a lot of people live in these tough, poor neighborhoods, and then they fix them up or they get a T-stop, and all of a sudden it's high-rise luxury condos driving everyone out of the district.
Right.
And they have to move when their neighborhood finally gets nice. And even where I'm at right now, I'm on the North Shore. I'm very fortunate where I live. But, we're in a very fortunate situation in even our cost of living. It's like the taxes, everything just keeps going up.
Right.
How do we stop that? How do we, make sure that people can afford to live where they want to live and not get gentrified out of the neighborhoods they even live in now?
Right. So I'll give you a short answer, long answer again. Short answer is that federal government needs to be the adult in the room again and invest in housing, which it has disinvested from over the last decades. Long answer, right now, the housing supports that the federal government does is through HUD, and they give rent support, largely to communities where folks are disabled, elderly, very poor. But federal government used to build housing. And when we look at our neighborhoods today and this gentrification that's going on, the invisible hand of the market, and I'm making my hand up like a tipping sign, it only cares about one thing, and that's top dollar.
That's right.
And so they're going to build up as many luxury stuff as they can, because that invisible hand does not care about communities, it does not care about culture, it does not care about people.
Doesn't care about your grandmother.
Exactly. And we know what that invisible hand did to us in 2008. It slapped us all across the face. And we know that there are poor communities today in Massachusetts that still have not recovered to the levels of personal wealth that they were in 2007.
Oh, I know about that because I'm just getting back.
Right.
You know, I'm feeling really good and I'm really fortunate. But what you said 2008 was when I went from here to here. Like, it just happened so quickly. And so I think people know if you were there.
Exactly. So when we're talking about what happens by default is that invisible hand just wants to build up as much luxury stuff as possible. And you see, like the city of Boston and other cities, they are trying to invest money to protect public housing and affordable housing in certain communities. But they can only do it at a certain level of units because you need a developer to come in willing to build it when they also know that they could try to build something bigger and more luxury. But the federal government has a whole different scale to it. And we're not talking about building the things that they had in the 60s, 70s.
That's what I was going to ask. What kind of housing were we talking about?
Right.
Would people get to own these? Would they maybe be smaller units? Like, what do you envision there? How would that work?
So people worry about, oh, are we going to build a ghetto or something?
Yeah.
No, let's build mixed communities again. The way the city does, you know, when they say you want to build a new building in the South End, they might say, well, if you're going to build 400 units, 100 units, 150 units of them have to be affordable. Let's get the federal government, who has the scale to be able to do that, back in the game to do that, so that we're not changing these communities. And when we're talking about what incremental change happens right now, we hear politicians talking about, oh, well, we should do a study about this.
Right.
Well, let me tell you a study you can go do. Go to Chinatown, go to Boston Common, go to Southie.
Yeah.
Go outside your door, look up, and notice the luxury skyscrapers. Now look right, look left, and notice that all your neighbors have moved out.
Yeah.
I think your study's done.
I mean,
it's time for big ideas. It's time for action.
Studying, because this happens everyone I know has been moving further and further away out of the cities, out of the city that we all made cool. Like, you know, like all the artists and creatives and people are just moving out. They're moving north, they're moving south, they're moving west.
And they're still trying to commute in on a bad T system, trying to MBTA to try to work. So their commutes are 1 or 2 hours a day.
Or driving, which is even worse, which is a 2-hour drive. I mean, I live in Marblehead, which is like, 15 miles away, and it takes 90 minutes for, commuting day. It's just out of control. It is.
And it takes away from livelihood and happiness of folks. And
stress.
And people deserve to be able to live in the communities that they work. Let's have the federal government make that a priority yet again. We are talking about the country that sent a man to the moon over 50 years ago. We can do this if we so choose.
Where are you on the last thing I think a lot of people ask about is foreign policy. A lot of people think we need to spend more in defense, and other people think we need to cut the defense. Where are you kind of on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, first we got to just zoom out and think about how much do we currently spend on defense. Because when we look at the amounts we spend more than the next 10 countries behind us. So yes, America should always be the force of good in the world in that we are able to defend ourselves. But we also got to think about our other priorities too. We got to think about the cost of education is skyrocketing out of control. We're leaving a generation shackled with debt because they wanted to get jobs training or because they wanted to get education. We got to have those priorities back on the table. Healthcare, as I talked about, that takes investment, but then it saves in the long run. So there is ability to invest again. As far as getting into nitty-gritty details, I'll admit I'm a doctor. I'm doing the 2 ears, 1 mouth thing, so I'm going to listen on this. And as time goes on, we will definitely speak more on this because we got a long 19-month road to the primary ahead of us.
Michael Driscoll said, well said, Modar.
I appreciate you, Michael.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. Matt Stearns is commenting too. He's got his own show. He said, "Hope the feds give the guy the chair." Who's he talking about? Do we talk about someone that should get the chair? We don't even know. I think he's on the wrong video. I don't know.
Hope it's not me.
Yeah, maybe it's some other conversation we were talking. Maybe he's talking about what is it? Oh, Trump. I don't know. Maybe he's talking about Trump. I don't know. We haven't talked about Trump much today. We haven't even mentioned Trump. I don't know where you got that one.
It's good for your health not to.
Yeah, we focus on issues more than we, maybe on Facebook I go off on Trump a lot though.
And that is an important point, because in 2020, the day we get Trump out of the White House, the day that we might win the Senate, we haven't made anyone's life better. That's why I'm in this race, because this is not a time for incremental change. This is a time for big ideas. And that is needed when we win in 2020. So I want to take you a step back. Let's talk about one of Massachusetts' favorite sons, Bobby Kennedy from Brookline. And he used to repeat this phrase often, that there are those who see things the way they are and say why. I dream things that never were and ask why not. And that's what this Democratic Party has always been. It's been the party that created big things that people thought were impossible at the time and made them possible. It took a decade of depression and created a New Deal. Fathers fought for Social Security, mothers made Medicare, brothers and sisters marched for civil rights, our children dreamed of marriage equality, and they all happened. A generation thought of a crazy idea that a guy named Barack could be our president, and all these things thought impossible were made so. So I go back to Bobby Kennedy and I dare to dream again. I dare to dream that the country where you have the right to an attorney when you are charged with a crime can certainly damn well give you the right to health care when you are sick.
That's right.
That the same country, I dare to dream of an America that measures its success by the education of each and every one of our children, where the pursuit of happiness is anchored in a livable wage, and that America will love you no matter who you are, no matter who you love, no matter where you were born, no matter where you're from, no matter the color of your skin, no matter how rich or poor you are. And we can go get that together, because when we dream together, we build together, and we prove once again that those things thought impossible are possible. This is not a time of incremental change. We are going to think big.
Just reading back on Matt Stearns is another way to reinterpret that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's saying that maybe he wants to see, when he says he hope the feds give this guy the chair, maybe they want to see you get a chairmanship if you get elected to Congress, maybe, right?
I'll take that. We got to dream big.
I think
we gotta earn the votes around the district first. We completely realize that. And that means talking to people. That means hearing the issues that are affecting their lives, and furthermore, bringing solutions to the table. Whoever wins this seat, like, congressmen get paid well. It's a six-figure salary. You got to earn it. And more so, you got to produce for the people, because you do not hold the seat. You are but borrowed it for 2 years for the people.
That's right. Again, we're speaking to Mohammed Dar for Congress. I want to thank you so much, Modar, for coming in today.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Mike.
And I hope you'll come back. When is this election going to be? Like, when's the primary? When's the general?
Absolutely. So the primary is in September 2020, and then the general is going to be in November 2020. So that, again, we got a long road, and we got a lot of opportunity to listen to people, and we are looking forward to it.
And you're doing this now full time. Like you mentioned earlier, you had basically given up work for this.
I had to leave the VA for this. I am still a practicing doc. I'm still going to be practicing medicine. You might see me in the neighborhood. But yes, this effort I'm doing full time, because when I was working at Mass Health and the VA, I was default working, because I didn't want to cut back my practice. I was working 80 hours a week on default, and that's just kind of the guy I am. I got used to it. So I'm always going to give you 100% on this, 110%.
So you sound a lot like me, like 80 hours a week all the time. I love it. I like it. I don't know. I like to work.
That's, when people send you to Washington, they expect that of you. They expect that every living moment you are trying to make their lives better. And we got to meet them at that. We got to prove that.
You're great. I'm so glad we had you on. Definitely want to have you back on again. Tell people again how they can reach out and connect with you, your Facebook pages, your Twitter, whatever you have, websites.
Absolutely. So Dr. Mohammed Dar, running for Congress. If you ever see me, you can call me Modar. The website is darforcongress.com, just DAR for Congress.com. And that is our handle on all the social medias. So
Dar for Congress.
Yep.
And the Dar is DAR.
DAR.
Easy. I'm
worked.
gonna go home and follow you on everything now.
Hey, it was the joy of my life to walk in a clinic and see a patient look at me and say, "Hey, Dr. Da."
Dr. Da. Thank you, Dr. Da, for coming in. Again, we're going to take a quick break. I'm Mike Crawford, the host of the Young Jerks. I want to thank Dr. Dar, or Mohammed Dar, for Congress for coming in today. And we're going to come back with a second guest and talk about what's going on in Worcester with economic applicants, economic empowerment applicants in Worcester, Massachusetts. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you,
you
Mike.
again. Thank you.